Finding something to live for, having a purpose, that's not always the most natural thing for us. Uh, I think what happens is when we're kids, we have all these ideas like, I want to be a fireman, I want to be an astronaut, I want to be a nurse, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a school teacher. We have all these different ideas. And those ideas come naturally. But purpose, I don't know if that's always something that's so natural that just shows up naturally. As people, I believe that we're finding ourselves like leaving old habits. Like as we get older, I'm 55. I've got a lot of old habits, things that I started when I was 9, 10, 11 in my teens, in my 20s, and I'm still doing those things. Sometimes I want to break those habits. I believe that most people, they desire to change things, but often we're just adult versions of our childish ways. We get older, we try to learn something new, but are we just an adult version of these childish ways? I think people really are looking for transformation. We find ourselves like stuck sometimes. And if you watch the show on Saturday where Armando and Sarah were talking, that at a point in their lives, they found themselves at a crossroads. And what they needed to do is they decided they were going to live. They decided that they wanted to live, but they had no idea what the next step was. They had no idea what they could live for, how they were going to take that next breath, what their lives were going to be about. And fortunately, they both found a path. During the conversation with Sarah, she was talking about a mentor that she has. She was taking an acting class, and she lives in the UK, and she was flying all the way to Los Angeles to take this acting class. And the gentleman that she was talking about that had trained, that was she was training with, and that had completely transformed her life is a gentleman named Bernard Hillier. And as soon as we got done with the show, I said, "Do you think he would want to be a part of the show?" And she said, "I can ask him." And he graciously said yes. So, and the reason I wanted Bernard on the show was not because of what he does, and he's got amazing accomplishments in the world. It's who he is. See, we can go out and we can make movies, we can be great actors, we can be all this stuff, but it's who we are that really makes the difference. Because who we are is what translates in regular conversation. It translates in love. It translates in connection, and people they gravitate toward that, and then that transforms people's lives. It's not the stories that we tell; it's the truth that we tell. And if you saw Saturday's show, what you had is a whole lot of truth from Armando and Sarah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring them on right now. I'm going to have them reintroduce themselves, and I'm going to have Sarah kind of tell a little bit of the story about Bernard, and then we're just going to go and we're going to have a good time. And tonight's show is called "Finding Something to Live For," and the crossroads when you're in life and you don't know what you're going to do, and you don't have a reason to live, or maybe the only reason to live is because you don't want to die, because dying is too big of a choice, but you don't know what to say, how to live, and what to do. That's what tonight is: a journey beyond suicide, finding something to live for. Hey guys, how you doing?
Good.
All right. I want to thank you guys for coming. Bernard, thank you very much for coming on. I'm gonna save you for last. So I'm going to have Armando. Armando, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about who you are, and just a really quick story about what we talked about on Saturday and where you were at that crossroads and the decision you had to make. Let's not go into the decision. Let's just take us up to the decision.
Perfect. Well, my name is Armando Aguilar. I'm a motivational speaker and life coach, and I started the company Live Big CEO, where we empower people to live life under their rules, because that's what I end up doing. And my story consists of, since I was a young kid, how my family treated me and the things they would tell me. And then I get to a point where I needed to figure out the decision I wanted to do, if I wanted to commit suicide again or if I wanted to live. And I'm sure we'll talk about it with more detail. But it's an honor to be on the show, and it's an honor to see Sarah again, and Bernard for the first time meeting you. I'm really excited to know more about you. And just a small little story about me, and I'm sure we'll get more in detail, but it's beautiful to be here and just be a human being, enjoying life and seeing life in color. In color.
I love it.
I repeat that because my life before was black and white.
Mm.
Color is beautiful.
I love it. Thank you. Sarah.
So I'm Sarah Ross. I'm the founder of Your Reason to Breathe. I help entrepreneurs and professionals reset, recharge, and thrive after burnout. So I had a highly successful corporate career, and then my life started to fall apart. And it took me to an orphanage in Vietnam for disabled children, where a dying orphan saved me from taking my own life. And at that point was, well, what do I do now? Because I was planning one route and suddenly I was at that crossroads of, well, what is there other than that plan I had for myself? And that resulted in an email to the man above asking if he would help me. Unfortunately, he said yes.
Very grateful. Bernard, how about telling us a little bit about you, what you do, and yeah, go from there.
Well, I'm Bernard Hiller. I teach acting and I'm a life coach. And I work with artists around the world, helping them discover what they're born to do, perfecting their craft, and realizing that the more you discover about yourself, the more you can use. And so one of the things about each and every one of us is that we have a gift. And the gift can only be discovered through joy. That's the key that unlocks the door. And there it starts the journey. And so I'm just honored to be here with Armando and Sarah. And any way I could help Martin, this is a beautiful thing you're doing to take some time, because too many people are doing a foolish act, a permanent act, which they would feel sorry like a week later or whenever. And so we need to do something and talk about it, because people don't talk about it enough.
Yeah.
Because there's something wrong. And if we see somebody who's handicapped, we understand them. But there's so many people having emotional issues. And this is a beautiful moment to talk about it.
That's interesting that you said that, because I had, on a few occasions, thought about taking my life. And then a few days later reflecting, like, that would have been a really bad idea. I'm really having a good time. And, I was kind of in the middle between Armando and Sarah. I didn't have a dad that was like, you can do anything. My dad was a little tough, but, I had a good life. We had a really, really good life. And I did suffer. And I believe I suffered because of a lot of stuff that I made up in my own head about things. Wasn't necessarily true. It was just what I made up. And I think that's what we do. I think that's what human beings do. We make up stories, and then we start to live out these stories.
That's exactly right. Well, everything is a story. First of all, I think that every single person in the world has ever thought about killing themselves. I think it's a common thing, and it comes from the greatest play ever written, Shakespeare.
Yeah.
To be or not to be, which is all about, should I live or should I die? So it's a question that people have always asked. So the idea and the fact is that we always have to make up a story about something that happens to us. That's a normal thing we do. So if somebody breaks up, you have to make a story about that. Am I not good enough? Or is it the fact because you actually never know what really happened? The person left because you were actually too great, but you don't know that.
And oftentimes the people that are the perpetrators don't really even know why they did what they did.
No, it's you have to make up a story. But the thing is that you can't change what happened between you and your dad, but you can't change the story. And that's what life is about. Changing the story changes your life.
That's really great, because that, I think, is something I want to dive into in a little bit. So we're going to get to that. If that's cool.
I heard, are we talking 3-4 hours? Is that how long a show?
We're almost done. Thanks for stopping by.
My curiosity's piqued. I met Armando and Sarah. I love them. So come on over.
I love what you said about the more you discover about yourself, the more you can give.
The more you can use.
The more you can use. Is that what you use? Okay.
Yeah, use or give.
So what, Armando or Sarah, what did you discover about yourself in that crossroads, in those moments?
Ladies first.
Oh, that was smooth.
Yeah. I can't think right now.
Let me just pass that over.
No, not at all. I am a gentleman, believe it or not.
Yes, I believe it.
Thank you.
No, for me, I think in that crossroads moment was that I did not know what to do next. I had all the stories that I was telling myself. I had everything that I had created that was this problem, that as I saw it. And I was so convinced that I had to wear a mask, not to hide stuff from my, to hide from people that I didn't want to disappoint, like my parents, my family, and friends. I had no idea how to take that mask off. I'd been wearing it for so long. And very much, I can't do this on my own, which for me at the time was, that was a huge shift for me, because it was like, I do everything on my own. Like I don't ask for help. I don't, reach out to anybody. I've had this, for 6 months at this point, I've been struggling with, not wanting to live, wanting to take my own life, but there's nobody I can ask. And yet in that moment, there is one business card in my wallet and there is one book in my room that night. And it just happens to be somebody that at the time I didn't like an awful lot.
That's true. That's true.
But there was a reason why, from the conversation that on the day that Bernard and I met, there's a reason why I kept that card and I didn't put it in the bin. There's a reason why I took that book with me to Vietnam. And I think there is something in that said, I needed somebody who was going to take me to a place that I would learn to dream again, that I would learn a different way of living and a different way of being, but that was so far removed from what I was used to in the corporate world that I would not be able to draw on anything I already knew.
You had to completely recreate yourself.
Yeah,
you had to start. You were starting from scratch.
I had to experience the world through a completely different lens, and I had to do that from literally rock bottom.
Wow. I appreciate the honesty. As I did not know what to do. I did not know what to do. Like, in how many times do we find ourselves there in life, just in regular everyday life, that we do not know what to do? What was that like when you got the call, Bernard, from Sarah? Like, I need your help. What was that? What was that like? How did you hear that? And
no. First of all, Sarah is an extraordinary. When we first met, she didn't like me very much because I gently and calmly told her, I don't think you're that happy. And I think that, and so what happens is, I want to tell you something that's very truthful. When you were saying a lot of people don't know what to do, here's one of the things that successful people always ask for help. On average, people never do.
Successful people always ask for help.
Always. Every single successful person always asks for help. And I get to work with some superstars, and guess what they all do? They all help. Everybody. It's like the most common thing. But average people don't. People who are so used to living alone and so used to living what I call a life of suffering and in their heads. And they've been criticized, people who've been always made to feel not good enough. Always, it's like you weren't good enough all the time. And then you start living in your head. If you start living in your head, you're going to lose, because the objective, the mind loves, the food of the mind is pain and suffering. If you live in your head, if you ask yourself right now, am I talented? I want everybody in the audience, whatever, ask your brain, am I talented? The brain will say no. It's just always because the brain always answers in a negative way. You have to learn, I needed to reconnect her to our heart and to our instincts. That's where the future is. Your heart has your answers. There's no answers in your brain. If you just live in your head, you're going to lose. And that's what I come from. And that's the ones who are successful. Think about all the instincts that people had, feelings. I want to create a computer. It didn't come from your head. Because the head will say, this will never work. This will never be good. And those are the exercises that I use, is teach people how to reconnect with their heart. And once you reconnect with their heart, that's when you think things are possible. Because your heart wants you to win, but your brain doesn't. So get out of here.
The yin and the yang. You got the polar opposites going on there.
Absolutely. But everything to be an artist, which is what every single person is. Everybody's life is a work of art. But I want to say that I guess I have the answer to Sarah's question. which is what my mom told me long ago. I want you to think of your life like a party, okay? And you walk into the party, and the room has four corners. And in one corner, there's absolutely nothing happening. And the other corner, everybody's sad and depressed. And in the other corner, people are having a good time, they're drinking. What life is some of you are staring at the corner where nothing is happening. Always find the corner in your life where something is happening and follow there. Keep looking at the closed door, it's going to stay closed.
Yeah.
So what happens is that you're looking like at the empty box. You have to always find what is working. Stop focusing on what's not working. And that was a message I had a long time ago in my mind. So there's a lot of times that things are not working in my life. Of course, turn around, go where the door is, where there's a party, where there's somebody's having a good time. Because you know you've all been to parties. And there's always like some people sitting there, some people are bored, and you go like, oh, you guys are the fun people. Find the fun people.
Find the fun people. Absolutely.
I like that.
Well, okay. So we're talking about the head and the heart. And this is what I teach in the curiosity theory. And I'm really interested in how you approach it. So the head is pre-programmed. It's been wired. We've wired it. Society's wired it. Our parents, our friends, it's all been wired. And it's just a vicious loop.
The head is full of fear. When you're living, it's full of fear. And through the eyes of fear, you're not going to see what's possible. But
so it's clouded.
No, you just see everything that's wrong with you. Look, if we want to focus right now what's wrong with us, we could be this all day. We can spend 5 hours all day. What's courageous is to stay in the heart and find what is right. What's right with you and focus on that. You know what? If you're not good at math, fuck math. Do what you're good at. Stop focusing. You keep focusing on focus on what your strengths are. That's the secret. But the brain, the mind, ask your mind. Your mind will always, if you ask yourself, are you handsome? Are you great? Do you have any talent? I want to hear the answer. The mind will never say yes because it just lives in fear. So it's just a fact. This is not something, it's just the fact that's why you need to get out. You can use the mind to do certain things. The mind has been designed to help you figure out how to get to the kitchen, but not great thoughts. When you're in love, when you're passionate, when you have a dream, it didn't come from your head.
Yeah.
People's dreams, we don't live in our hearts enough. And the people who sadly do something horrible to themselves have been living in their heads too much. And all they see is that this is going to be their life. It's never going to get better. Look at Armando. He is a public speaker. Look at him.
Thank you.
You know what? Here's what I say. He would have been a public speaker before. He didn't just, it's something he had inside him already. Is it the fact he turned and looked in another direction and goes like, I think I'm a public speaker. I have some motivational speaker. He didn't just become a motivational speaker. He had that ability, but it needs to be nourished. It needs to be nurtured. It needs to be, it's a gift, but you gotta focus on it. It's there. The gifts are there. You gotta find them. Stop finding what's wrong.
Absolutely. So we want to live, but we don't know how. And now we have the brain going and the heart going.
Right.
And so now there's a war. So we've got to figure out how to win that war. Go ahead, Armando.
In my case, was completely different than Sarah. I didn't know how to ask for help because the people that I would ask for help was my family, and it was the ones that brought me down. Is the ones that said you're a loser, you're never going to become anything. Right. So when I turn around and try to ask for somebody else, I had that fear, like you said, in the mind, right? I had that fear that, oh, this person's going to find out that I'm that, you know what I mean? So I'm really scared that they will find out. So what I had to do,
okay, real quick, find out what? So go back.
That I face depression, that my family calls me a loser, and I end up believing it. So people are going to find out that, oh, everything that my family tells me or everything that comes with the mental illness is true about me, right? So for me to ask somebody, hey, can you help me? I would have to open up and say, but I face this. I face bipolar. I face depression. There's moments that I'll talk to you and we can be real happy. We'll hang up the phone. You'll call me back. And I'm like, why are you calling me? Like, what? But it's things that I didn't notice because your mind works that way and it's unbalanced, so you're not aware of it. So to ask people's help, other people will run away too. So I had to learn to find myself. I had to learn to see my crossroads was, who is Armando? Because I didn't know Armando. The only person I knew was what my family and the stigma of mental health was telling me. That's the only person I knew. That's the only person I was. And I say I was because I'm none of that.
So I got a feeling, Bernard, you probably don't spend too much time in the woe was me conversation. And I'm not saying that you're being woe was me. It seems to me like you're like into like, let's bring out like what's amazing about you. I'm just guessing. Tamara says, I used to hear that from my dad. I was never going to be anything.
Right.
That's common. That's a very, very common.
No, the messages we get are all very negative.
Yeah.
I mean, I know Armando had negative messages, and then he believes that because every child, we're all children, and every child is a prisoner. We're all prisoners. If your parents tell you about that, you believe that.
Yeah.
If your parents hate those type of people, then you hate those type of people too. You don't go like, screw that. And if
You're wrong, Dad.
No, but also Armando, when he's having a bad time, said, I can't live with you guys. I'm moving to the Hilton Hotel. Send my things. You're stuck as a prisoner, as a child. And the big thing that he talked about is the inner journey, the inward journey of discovering your gifts. And it's like a journey. You have to go and find the journey of what's special about you. And it's a never-ending journey, and there are also more gifts. So whatever we are right now, we could be 100 times more. This is only the beginning. This is not the end.
Thank you. But there's also the illusion when you're born that your parents are there to give you the best. That your parents are there to save you, protect you. So that's what makes it even harder.
Right? No, you have the illusion, but the idea is that were your parents like life coaches?
No.
Were your parents like motivational speakers?
No, not at all. Well, they were, but negative motivation.
Negative motivation.
Were they experts on your problem? Were they an expert on mental health?
Right. Not at all.
That's the big thing. You know what? When you're sick, don't go to a plumber asking them for help. The idea is that your parents had no idea about this, and of course you don't know. But if you want help, get the greatest help in the entire world on your problem. Because when your heart is bad, Martin, find the heart specialist. Don't ask, hey, Joe, what do you think? Yeah. And that's what happens, is that you need to go with world's greatest experts.
Well, I learned to look for counsel instead of opinion.
Well, yes. That's what you need. Don't ask someone to help you with your dream who are living their nightmare. You don't want that. You need the right people.
So Sarah and Armando, so you don't know what to do. You're considering dreams. You're considering something else. I would imagine there's a part of you that's still holding on to a past, like not knowing how to let it go. Like, how do you what was that moment that you finally said, I'm going to let it go? And what was happening? What led to that?
So for me, I remember a conversation with Bernard, and he's like, write down a list of things that make you happy. It's like, happy.
Oh, you told me.
What sort of magic is this?
What kind of nonsense you're talking about?
Joy.
Stuff.
Oh, I'm not sure this is going to be a good conversation.
Happy and such.
Happy and what I have to smile too. Oh my goodness. But then he made me actually commit to doing things on this list, like 2 or 3 of them every single day. And it was maybe 30 seconds that first day. And it was, on my list was I had loved as a child reading. I was a bookworm. I always had books everywhere. And there were no books in my room in Vietnam. There was no, apart from Bernard's book, I didn't have any. And that first weekend after he'd set me that task to walk into a bookshop and walk out with 7 books, that's when I knew I had reconnected with something. I didn't know what it was, and I didn't know what it was going to do. But to give myself 1 chapter every day, and then 15 minutes every day, and then 30 minutes every day, where I just spent time doing something just for me, something that my heart craved. That was the biggest difference, because suddenly I was important and what I felt about myself was important again. Whereas, you know, the girl, as she puts on that Santa costume, is like, my life is worthless, and I'm, you know, this is my last gift to these kids, and then I'll be done. Suddenly, it's like, no, this is my time. You know, oh, I haven't had my 30 minutes, so I'll just grab my book and I'll make a cup of tea, and I will make sure that I get what I need in order to be able to live fuller in this life that I've chosen. And at that point, I have chosen it, so it's even more important.
At that point, you hadn't chosen, or you had just chosen it?
So I had chosen, you know, that the shift for me was that I chose to live. That was the reason I found that day. I wouldn't find the reason to breathe, and that I was going to share this story for another 6-7 months afterwards. But to know that you are consciously making a choice that a month earlier had not even been in your wheelhouse, had not even been on the cards to say, I want to live past 31st of January. Suddenly, as you get past that date, you're like, I am choosing every single day to live.
I love that. To me, it explains that you start somewhere, and then what you're going to know, what you're going to learn, what you're going to live, and how you're going to hold yourself as your new version of yourself is down the road. All you have right now in this moment, in that moment of saying, I'm not going to kill myself, I'm going to choose a different path, is all you have is a possibility. You just have maybe just a little bit of a dream. Maybe you have just something in the back of your head that says, like Armando had said, you know, I've been listening to everybody else tell me, but I've never given myself my own opinion of myself. Maybe you just have just a little bit of an opinion yourself, and maybe that little opinion is a beautiful opinion. Sometimes that's all you can hold on to.
And it's, you know, it's, I think Tony Robbins used this great example of golf. If you stand in exactly the right spot and you hit that ball, it will go 400 meters, 400 feet. If you're 2 millimeters off in either direction, that ball can be 150 meters left or right of where you were aiming it.
Yeah.
And that to me was, those days was not about where am I going to be in 5 years time? Where am I going to, you know, where am I going to be in 6 months time? It was, what am I going to do next? You know, am I going to go to bed tonight with a smile on my face? What, because of what? And so it was going right back to really basic things. I made my bed, you know, I made sure I had a shower. I brushed my hair. You know, every single day there was all these little steps, and I didn't have to worry about, well, what am I going to do in 557 steps time, which had been the old me. Like, my whole life was planned when I was in the corporate world. But when I was, you know, when I was now starting to live it on my terms, I was like, you know what? I don't have to plan so far. It's okay if all I do today is smile, see sunset, read my book, and take some photos. Because those were generally the 3 things I did every day. Once they were on my list, they got done.
Bernard, when people are learning to act, is it a version of giving yourself permission to live?
Well, acting, for those who want to get quick, acting is discovering different parts of yourself. Everybody here is acting right now. You're all playing different parts. You're playing a father, a friend, a lover, a mother. We're playing different roles, and acting is discovering different parts of who you are and sharing it with the audience. It's something authentic. It's not a fabricated thing. It's not a pretending thing. And in many ways, acting is a skill which allows us to find different parts of who we are. Now, what Sarah was talking about is the fact that we need to, every morning, to charge our happiness battery. If you don't charge your battery, you're running on empty. And that's what Sarah was running. She was running empty. And when you're running on empty, you're not going to go very far. And that's what Armando was also. He's running on empty. You got to feed yourself the right food, information. Listen, we are what we eat and we are what we think. It's what we feed ourselves. So every morning we have a special program that people do in the morning, different times depending who they are. But we need to feed ourselves.
Yes.
That's why you're eating all the time. But if you're eating junk food, you're going to be, you're not going to do very well. But that's what she's talking about. Every day
Okay.
we have to do 3 things that bring us joy. If we don't do it, most people are just trying to accomplish things, or have the worst quality, which is trying to be a perfectionist. And if you're trying to be a perfectionist, that means that you are, we're not trying, but if you're trying to be a perfectionist, you're trying to please someone else. Perfectionism comes from pleasing others. It's someone else still in your head, and you still want them to think you're great. But the problem is you are great, and you don't need to care what anyone else thinks. And that's when the shift comes. What do I think? Not what is your mom thing, your friend, the neighbor next door. What do I think is the empowerment of life? But people who are perfectionistic are still locked in of wanting to be proven that they're worthy. So I'm telling you right now, you're all worthy. You don't need anyone's permission.
Thank
And
you.
at some point we will then take that on and then live that if we're willing to do that.
Let me say something. If you're going to the gym all the time, you're going to be in shape. If you go to the gym once a year, you're going to be in shape for 3 days and then you're out. This is a constant thing. If you don't, it's not like you live that. It's a lifestyle. It's like a vegan or whatever.
Yeah.
Vegan, but it's a thing. They're not vegan like on Monday and then Tuesday it's steak time. It's a lifestyle. It's a way of thinking. And that's what it is. You can take it on if that's what you want to live. And I think it's the only way to live.
Absolutely. So in the morning, I get up, I meditate, and I do yoga. And if I don't do that, my results are not the same.
Right.
They may be the same for a day or two, but I'm going to start to fall back in a little bit. So is that the same thing you're saying? You got to have a routine. You got to have a foundation. You got
to find the routine that works.
Yeah.
Not something that isn't working.
Yeah.
If it's not working, you need to find a foundation, and you need to ask for help from people who are a lot smarter than you. And that's what I do. I ask people who are a lot smarter than me. And that's what I would feel, that there are people who know a lot more. And as I said, successful people always ask for help. But the reason they would ask for help, it sounds of vulnerability. And like what Armando says, I'll discover what's wrong with him. Well, you know what I discover when I check Armando? I'll discover whatever we're looking for. It's not that I'll find out what's wrong. I'll find out whatever we're looking for. Now, you all live in different places. I live here in Los Angeles. If I look down what's wrong,
somebody has something flying over them.
That's the jet is arriving. So
there's a helicopter going over. I just turned it.
Yeah, when you have that much money.
So say that again. Go back 30 seconds, Bernard, if you don't mind.
Yeah. What was I saying?
Talking about Armando. Armando will discover something about himself.
Right. The idea is that you discover about yourself what you're looking for. But I'm saying I live in an area called Beverly Hills. Okay. Now, the reason I mention that area is that if I want to find what's wrong with Beverly Hills, I can. Because, or if what do you find in life? What you're looking for.
Yeah.
If there isn't like it's actually there, because in fact, in my world, you actually don't live in the world. No one lives in the world. You only live in the world you create. Everybody's creating. There is no world. What world? Either I look at the mountains and go, that's beautiful. Look at the mountains. And someone looks at the mountains and goes, you know what? We can get the trees off the mountain. We can rip that mountain down. It depends. Everyone is not seeing the same thing because you're actually creating your own world.
So I think do you want to say something, Armando?
No, I was going to say, in my case, it's I was watching Netflix one day in my room, and I was thinking of, should I commit suicide again? And when I was thinking of that, there was a maybe there. There was a should. And what led me to that should was question myself. Do I live Armando's life, or do I live my family's life? And that was a hard choice because I didn't know how to go about it. I had no idea how to go about it. And like I said, it wasn't easy to ask for help. So being lost, but I knew there was something there. I knew there had to be something there because the should was there. If not, I wouldn't be here now, right? So My failure is the best failure I've ever had in my life.
Your
Which
failure. What do you mean?
my failure of the first times that I tried to commit suicide, that I wasn't successful. I failed at it, and I'm happy. I'm the best. Happy when people go, I'm afraid of my failures. I'm like, let me tell you mine. Let me share mine with you. Failures are awesome. I fail. It's awesome. I'm here because I fail. But again, I was lost. I had a crying spell coming in and that brought that fear and go, maybe I should end my life. But the should was there, and that should is what empowered me.
You need to have something to live for.
Yeah, and I wasn't sure, but there was things that I've accomplished. There's things that I done. I had dreams, and I was opening a coffee house, and I had an investor that came, and I did the whole work on the whole business plan. So I knew I had some type of knowledge. I knew I had something to give. Just wasn't aware of it. And like you said, there's something there, and I agree 100% with you. So that should save my life.
Yeah, that's good.
I love what Bernard was talking about, your heart, and it really, like, our hearts always sing. Like, you give our heart an opportunity, it's going to sing. It's going to tell you, like, ooh, it's just going to sing. I mean, and it's going to act, and it's going to be great, and it's going to express itself. And then you start thinking about, am I looking stupid? Am I too fat? Are people going to laugh at me? It's all that. Like, even doing these shows, I could, if I think about it, if I think about who's going to watch and who's going to comment, who's not going to, all this stuff, I'm not going to do the show. When I think about, when I feel like the possibility of what it can do for people, it's like a no-brainer. There's no effort. It's like, it's completely effortless, and then it's magical. And I don't really have anything to say. I'm just curious, and I want to know what other people have to say. And other people say amazing things, and people get their life out of it. And that's what I'm here for. There's no special talent that I have. If someone was asking me, you wrote this book called The Curiosity Theory, and are you like a really curious person? I go, no, I'm just nosy. It's nicer to say curious than nosy.
Now,
I in everybody's business, and I'm interested in your business. I want to be nosy about your lives.
Now, I do want to say something about that. Martin has been my mentor. He's the one that has helped me pull out the best out of me. So, were you saying that you're that? I think you have so much to offer, brother. You give so much, and you do it with a kind heart. And I just wanted to take the time to say thanks.
You got it. And okay, so my heart can see other people's greatness. Mm-hmm. It's easy to see other people's greatness. That's the easy part. And then now I put my ass on the line. So now I'm either going to fail miserably and not live my life purpose, or I'm going to just go, all right, be great. Just be the best version of yourself. So my life, why I do yoga, why I meditate, why I do the things that I want to do, is so that I can be the best version of myself. And now I say the good things to myself. And I see that's why it's easier to see it in other people and support other people, because I'm not using other people to make me feel better about myself, and I'm not using other people to make me feel worse about myself. I'm using myself to see beauty in other people.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, that's what Einstein said. The fact is, let me get something clear. No one can see their own gifts, because you can never see yourself. It's not humanly possible. It's just, and Einstein said the person that creates the problem cannot see the problem because they are the problem. So you're the last person who can see your own problem, the last person. And so all the problems I have, and I have many, that's why you have children. They always tell you exactly what's wrong with you. I don't recommend them, but I have two, and they are always ready and quick to tell you exactly what's wrong. Yes, you cannot see it. You can see it in others, but that's the most common thing, because I find everyone prejudiced. See, Sarah was very prejudiced against herself.
Yeah.
When she was looking in the mirror, she didn't see the beauty I see. She saw what she wanted to see, because I told you don't see what's there. You see what you want to see. And so that's not possible. That's why we need each other. You could help me more then I can, I can have to see myself. It's not possible. And so performers, they always have coaches. Why? And by the way, who's the greatest soccer player of all time? Who do you guys know? Come on, who's
Pele.
no,
We say Pelé.
not right now? Not now. Pele was before. Who's like number one?
Messi.
Huh?
Messi.
Messi. Now he plays for what team?
Argentina, is it?
Argentina. Very good. That's where I was born. And do they
Che
have
boludo.
no, I say, but do they have a coach on the team?
They do.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
why do you need a coach? They don't know which way to run. You run there, get the goal in. Why would they possibly at all? And that's what it is. Why would they need a coach? Why would the greatest soccer player? There's another one from Spain or somebody that's like also famous. I forgot his name. But how come the greatest player?
Ronaldo or whatever.
Yes, Ronaldo. What about him? How come?
Taken.
Well, that's right.
Because we can see this. We can see this. A coach
Right.
can see
That's
this.
why great players have a coach, not because they don't know, like, go that direction. They don't know which way to go kick the ball because when you're great, you want someone to help you become greater. There's no other way.
Yeah. There's a question. So Michelle Baca had a question, and I have no idea how to answer this question. I'm going to ask Armando and Sarah. Said, thoughts on helping a young adult heal after having a parent who committed suicide?
Well, that's a tough one, but it is really about. I realized after I had come back and when I started having conversations with people, it was only afterwards that I realized the devastation that I would have left behind. In fact, it was, and I had a fairly good inkling of it, but my cousin was actually killed in a car crash about 2 years afterwards. And hearing my mom sob down the phone that he was too young to go, he still had so much to give. And this was what she was saying about my cousin. To realize the pain that would have caused her if it had been me. That was the point at which, for me, that was never, ever going to be an option again. But there would have been a lot of questions. And that's what we see in the press when people have taken their own lives, Kate Spade, Robin Williams, all these people, the questions that are left behind are what we need to help people with. They will be grieving, they will miss their parent, whatever, but helping them to find a comfort from those questions, but also an acceptance that they may never know the answers.
I think an important thing is honesty with the person. And I think one of the most important things on it is to make sure that the son or daughter knows that the person's choice had nothing to do with them, because they're so easy to grab the blame, right?
Yeah.
So easy. Maybe I caused this person to do that. Maybe because I didn't do my homework, I was late, I was a rebel kid. This person did that, and then they carry their life based on that. I was the cause of that, and 90% of the time, they're not the cause. It's the choices the person took because they're living in their mind and they're living on the negative side of their mind. They're not going to the right party or to the right side of the party. They're going to the wrong side of the party, and then they commit a certain act, and then like Sarah said, they don't know the answer. There's no answer where you can turn around and say this, but it is important that the kid knows that's a choice this person made and it had nothing to do with you. Because when that person starts knowing that and accepting that, they can start moving forward without guilt. Because guilt can destroy your life. So learning to be honest with that person, learning to tell that person, this has nothing to do, this is not your fault. That person loved you. That person cared about you. They just didn't care about themselves as much, or they were going through a hard time, and that they felt that that's the solution. Like I felt that was the solution. But I think honesty and pointing out that it's not their fault will help a lot.
Christy Jones said, my mom tried to take her life after my sister died. Thankfully, she lived. Yes, Christy, thankfully, she lived. I think I'm hearing what Sarah said was, listen, you listen, because we don't know the questions that people have. And if we assume that we know what they're feeling, then we're going to be, we're basically putting our feelings or on them, and we're not listening to them. You know what? I don't know. I'd say, Michelle, I don't know what questions a child would have. I would just be curious and listen to those questions. I think a lot of times when we say things as people, as human beings, it's in the saying, it's in the words coming out of our mouths that we find healing. And I think often we heal ourselves because we're able to say it. And I would say that kind of like what Bernard was saying is if you ask for help, it's in the asking for help. There's part of you that hears the question that you're asking, which is part of the help. You actually start helping yourself in conjunction with the person that you're asking for help. How would you answer? How would you approach the question, Bernard? Do you want me to put it back up again?
No. I think, first of all, mental health is something we cannot see. We can see that someone has a broken arm. We can see that something is like broke. Like when you look at Armando, you don't see anything broken, but there was something broken in him, which made him come. When you're broken, you just start making all kinds of different choices. But the first thing I would do, of course, is I would find someone who is a suicide expert, healer. I mean, someone who knows a lot more in this field than me to realize that, it wasn't, she was tortured. Who knows what her situation is? We can't be, but I would like someone who is very qualified to talk about that, because so many people do that. When they're doing it, they think it's a good thing. I mean, they think like, you don't need me. They don't quite see the devastation that you're going to leave behind. But I think that I would say, seek the right help from experts. And there are so many, because sadly, there's so many people who they just commit suicide. And that is just, it's the saddest thing. It's just sad.
Yeah, it is. It is really sad. I had a friend that posted a picture today, and that he had said that his cousin, sounded to me like his cousin also committed suicide, and the brother had committed suicide. And it's just, there's what are the statistics right now, Armando, for suicide? The hotline's just off the hook.
The
right
hotline, with the thing that's going on with Corona and all that, the hotline went 800% growth. 800% of costs has gone up. Dramatically crazy. One thing they're working on, which is a great thing, and I want to point it out there for people to know, it's pretty soon they're going to be having a 3 number that you'd be able to call instead of 1-800 number. Because when you're in a situation like that, remembering a 1-800 number is the hardest thing in the world. You know what I mean? But if you remember 988, that could help a lot. But I think the statistics are growing. They're growing more.
Yeah, people are feeling more isolated. These right now, there's a crisis, human communication crisis. People don't talk anymore. They feel more alone now than we've ever felt. We're connected and disconnected now more than ever in the history of the world.
Yeah.
We're texting, emoji, this, that. There's no lack of human touch, and people are lonely, and now they're isolated. It's a big problem. We really need each other, and we need human communication.
Go ahead.
There's something called social distance, but you don't have to be, distance from your friends. Social distance doesn't mean that you have to stay in touch. So right now, you need to call people and talk to them, and don't talk about crisis. Bring them joy. We are each other's helpers. We have to actually get involved, and we could save a life. I think one phone call can actually save a life.
Yeah, you said a brilliant point, Bernard. Talk about that, and then we can all be down, or we can call each other and do something to bring us.
No, we got to listen. We're in the boat ride, and it's rocky. Okay, just hang on. The boat's going to end. There's no storm that lasts forever.
Yeah.
This isn't going to go forever. There's no storm in the history of the world that's ever lasts forever. Even Noah's Ark, it's 40 days and 40 nights. Okay, it stops. This is also going to stop, and you have to realize that you have to hang on. And we are going to hang on if we're all together. And that's why I like being here when I see all of you. We're together. The idea we're not born to live alone. That's right. Problems.
You said a great point, Bernard, about talking about the positive. It's so easy for people to talk about the negative. You know what I mean? They call you and they complain and they say this happening, that happened, this is going on, that's going on. And when I get phone calls like that, because there's people that we love and we take their phone call,
Hang up.
and then I send them a
No,
voicemail.
Just say,
You know,
Martin, I don't want to
I,
hear it anymore, and just hang up on Martin.
I have a joke that I say, my phone can hold 5,000 songs and one voicemail from my mom. You know what I mean? Or one voicemail for a negative friend, right? That
yeah.
is just forever. So I think it's very important, like you said, and I agree 110% with you, is let's talk about the positive and the storm is going to end.
Well, listen, takes courage to be positive. It doesn't take courage to be negative. And I honestly don't have friends like that. I don't have anybody calls up and talks about the bad, because it's easy to be bad. It's like, takes courage, takes power. Look at Sarah, who's made an incredible life for herself and where she is. It takes courage to be happy. It doesn't take courage to be sad.
Right.
Courageous people have a future. It takes courage. Cœur comes from your heart. Cœur, it's a French word, from the heart. And you can't be courageous without having fear. There's no courage without fear. You can't be courageous. I'm having a cup of coffee. That's not courageous. But doing things you've never done, saying things you've never done, exposing yourself, that's courage. And that's what you need right now. More courage.
And what a great place to find yourself. What a great place to find yourself, in the energy of courage, in the energy of greatness, in the energy of, wow, I can do this. That's like me. Wow. It's, you were talking, Sarah was talking about that you heard a truth, and it sounded like that truth about you, how great you were, was almost a surprise to you. But there had to be something familiar about it, that you were great. And then you just keep working on it and working on it and working on it. And eventually the song, becomes an album, and then it becomes a whole bunch of albums, and you live that way. And like Bernard says, he doesn't have a bunch of people that they're talking negative. Then you surround yourself with people, and then that it grows and grows and grows and grows.
Yeah. Because we're trying to find, there's a problem right now. I'm looking for solutions. I don't need someone to keep telling me more about the problem.
Yeah.
There's a leak in the boat. Okay, I know there's a leak. So let's figure out, how do we fix it? To talk about there's a leak on the boat, we don't need people like that. We're gonna drown with people like that.
Yes. By the way, look at that. People are pointing, right? And they're watching something happen on the street, and everybody's shooting pictures. It's like, hey, how about somebody put your phone down and help them guys out there, for a second?
Yeah, get up there and do something. It's a whole different, maybe.
One of the biggest moves I've done, and one of the biggest things that has helped me, is remove a lot of those negative people in my life and build new friendships. That's been one of the most powerful things I've done. People ask me all the time, what is one of the things you do? Said, it's going to be hurtful, but you're going to have to leave family members. You're going to have to leave friends that you know from childhood. You have to leave friends like that. People, coworkers, whatever. You have to leave them aside. You have to leave them in your back, because you need to grab to the people that are going to empower you, and that you could also empower. So your life, I don't know, Sarah, but my life changed a lot within who I hang around with and who I spend time with. I've let go of the negativity and welcome the positive.
So we're gonna have to go ahead.
For me, it was, there wasn't even a choice. Suddenly I found myself in a masterclass in Miami, and I'm surrounded with people who are positive and who are dreaming, and I didn't know how to do that. And it was an awkward class, but I walked out surrounded by people that knew how to do it. And then the next class I went to, every single class, I was surrounded by people who could dream, who were happy, who found joy in the things that I was still like, why do you do this? Like, why do you put yourself through all these auditions? Why do you let these people speak to you? Like, they get no all the time, but they're still happy and they're still enjoying the process. And I'm like, this is crazy. Like, if I got this many no's, I would, probably kill myself. But that was where we started. So it was.
We don't have that choice anymore.
233 no's. Remember, Sarah, 233 no's.
233 no's. But it was, then when I, started to hear those same things from people that to me were the icons. Bernard and I had been at film festivals. I heard Danny DeVito talk about being a hairdresser. You know, these were stories that were so completely, basically screwed with my head quite a lot for the 18
How come?
months that I was in this
How
class.
come? Because it was just not the way it was
This
supposed to
was
be, or the way you
so
thought about
far
it?
away from the life that I knew in corporate.
Uh-huh.
But the day that I realized that there was no difference between being in corporate and what actors go through, I just called it an interview. They call it an audition. And when that piece switched, suddenly
Yeah.
it was like, oh my God, I am surrounded by people who, for whom this world is a place to play and not a chore to go through. And
I
that was the
love it.
difference. So,
I
And it's
love
a
it.
big difference, right, Sarah? When I started going to personal
absolutely.
development events and I started meeting people in burgers, you like your eyes open up and you're like, whoa, there's a whole different world.
Yeah.
If you are, I'm going to start with Bernard, go to Armando, and finish with Sarah, and then I'll close up. If you were going to give somebody advice and you had one thing to say, and you know, you could take a couple minutes to say it, but it was finding something to live for. What would you say to somebody, Bernard? Someone's looking for a reason, finding something to live for.
Well, first of all, every human being is born with something special. That's just a fact. And they have it within themselves. They don't have to look outside. You have to go looking outside for what you want. Everything you want is inside. When people say, I don't know what I want to do, of course you know what you want to do. I've never met anybody who didn't want to know, because then I gave them an idea. You want to do this? And they go, no. I said, okay. If you said no, you must have some idea. Maybe not specifically what you want, but there's no one in the world that doesn't know what they want to do. But we don't dream enough. We don't believe in dreamers. We think about just doing a job and that life is about pain and suffering. It's a whole thing like that. Versus the fact, do what you love and you'll figure out a way to make money at it. That's a whole new concept. The concept is the fact that until you find out who you are, your authentic self, you're never going to be happy, no matter what you have. And that's what it is that you have to find that gift. I think that my mentor, Les Brown, says, we are here, we're a masterpiece. We're here to be a masterpiece because we are part of the master. That's what I have to say.
I've heard him say that. Yes, absolutely. Armando, if you were going to help give some advice at finding something to live for, what would you say?
I would say the same advice that I told myself. Do I want to live life under somebody else's rules? Or do I become the CEO of my life and start living life under my rules? And that's a question that if you really start thinking about it, it really makes a big change in your mind, because it kind of opens your eyes and go, wait a minute, it's true. I've been doing what my mom wants me to do. I've been doing what, I don't want to fail this person. And I end up doing the job that they recommended to do. But my passion is something completely. But because my parents thought this would be the best thing, I end up doing that. And I hate it. So when I ask people and I have conversations with people, I ask them, who do you live for? Well, I live for myself. Really? Well, then show me that you live for yourself. And they end up like, yeah, but I don't want to disappoint my mom. I don't want to disappoint my husband, my wife, my kids. I go, you are disappointing them already because you're not doing what you love. You're not doing what it's about you. You're teaching somebody, do what somebody else says so you can be happy, not do what makes you happy. So that's when I started becoming the CEO of my life, when I started living life under my rules, that's when a lot of things change. So that's what I would say to somebody. Ask yourself the question, who are you living for? Are you the CEO of your life? Are you living life under your rules? Or are you living it with the fear of somebody else? That would be the advice that I would give somebody. And sometimes you don't have to give them so much. It's just so little things that can sparkle something. So that's what I would say.
Sarah, thank you, Armando.
For me, it's simple. The only person who has to understand your reason to breathe is you.
Beautiful.
The only person who it has to make sense for is you. And you do not need to know how it's going to happen. You just need to make that next step. One step, that's all it is. And once you've taken that one, you take another one. As long as you are heading towards that reason, that's all it is.
I love it. I would say micro wins, like little things, like celebrate the little things, like making your bed, making a cup of coffee, not the big things, the little things. Find something to live in the little things that you do. The person that smiles at you or the gift that you give somebody. That's that's where you find something. That's where I believe you find something. Bernard, tell us a little bit about what you do, about your class, maybe how and who's it for, and how can people?
Well, the idea is that I work with artists, business people, all kinds of different creatives, entrepreneurs. And if you want to find out more about me, just go to my website. I do have a lot of master classes and seminars online right now.
Okay.
Which is there's one called How to Live an Oscar-Winning Life.
Very cool.
Would you give yourself an Oscar at the end of your life?
Oh,
So but it's on bernardhiller.com.
bernardhiller.com. Okay, great. Armando, how about you, buddy? What are you up to?
Well, I launched Live Big CEO, and which I'm really excited about. And what I do is I really do take people in a one-on-one live coaching and sit down and talk to them and ask them, where do you want to go? What is it that you want to view? Because I've been to the darkest side, and now I see life in color. And when I have a conversation, you'd be surprised. Like, whoa, I never even thought that I had that value, that I can do those things. So I help people live life under the rules. I'm working on a course that my great mentor, that guy right over there, is helping me create to empower more people. And I look forward to showing it to them and continue helping them in my own special way. And you can find me under Armando Aguilar. And I promise you, I'm the only guy with this face.
Are you sure?
That's a fact. That's actually a promise and a fact. And you can find me in all social medias under Your Rules. So Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and all of them, you can find me there, Armando Aguilar, and Under Your Rules. And I'd be happy to do anything I can for you guys.
Thank you. Sarah, what's going on with you, girl?
So I'm working on a new online course at the moment. It'll be called Maximize Your Mental Health, looking at different ways to, basically boost that health just as much as you would to the gym to boost your heart rate and your physical health. So that is coming in the next month or so. But at the moment, you can find me on yourreasontobreathe.com. And also all the social media links are on there. So yeah, if people want to connect, then please do.
So I want to thank you for Saturday, coming hanging out with us on Saturday, and just the greatness that you brought. And Bernard, thank you for your heart, and Armando as well. It's what, 4:00 in the morning right now, Sarah?
It is a little.
She's an Oxford England, so
Just a little.
Just a little.
tired. Oh, just a little tired. So thank you very much for hanging out with us. And
You're welcome.
all you guys, really, just thank you very much.
I think that all of you should get together and do like a seminar, because there's lots of people out there, and do a big webinar, because this topic needs to be discussed, and not only discussed, but talked about, and the solution for it and exercises for it. I think you guys would be tremendous to work together and do something like that.
Absolutely.
I'm down.
I'm up for it.
Well, thank you guys. That's a really, really great thing. That if this goes into something else, that would be wonderful. Like Bernard says, a lot of people out there, a lot of people can use some help. Thank you guys. Appreciate you guys.